get to hear me do that again. All right, so I have 7:31 as the go live time for our meeting now that I've hit the button. And the only person we're missing is Ed. Everybody else is here. And Councilors Burke and Perry, and also Melissa Devalve, who's going to introduce herself shortly. So good evening, everybody. We're going to dive right into it. First things first, Dana, thank you for doing the minutes. If anybody didn't see it, she sent out some updated ones slightly before this meeting that just filled in the blanks based on what was in the recording of our last meeting. Didn't really change the structure of the meeting that dramatically, exception for there was one voting element in there that was just reconfirmed. So can I entertain a motion to accept the minutes from June 8th?
I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes from the June 8th meeting.
Okay, can I get a second? Got a second from Chris? Is there any discussion or any changes or corrections? No. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Nope, passes unanimously. So, all right, so this is gonna be my favorite part of the meeting right here. I am really, really excited to introduce, and I wanna thank Bob for his time in helping get us to this point where we're able to introduce her. Melissa Devalve, who is joining us as the beaches coordinator for the summer. Super psyched to have you. Melissa, would you mind just sort of doing a quick introduction about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Devalve. I live here in town with my husband, John, and my 4 children, Mia, Charlie, Hadley, and Maddox. Yeah, so I don't, what else do you want me to say?
What's your background?
So I'll sum it up really quick. I used to own a dance studio in Portsmouth in Middletown for 10 years. Then I kind of took a break when I had my 3rd child. I sold my dance studio and have just been home being a mom for many years. And now I'm back in school getting my master's in social work. Probably going to do school social work. I've been working in the Providence school system this past year via Zoom. And I'll be in the Providence schools starting in the fall and graduating in April. And then my last child will be entering kindergarten next fall, and I'll be going back into the workforce. But I've always been with children. I love working with people. I thought this would be something fun, bring some new energy to the beach and have fun with the kids, and maybe bring some events to the beach, bringing the kids, into the beach. I was talking to Stu, maybe some sandcastle contests or maybe a scavenger hunt with the kids. I don't know, something just fun for the community. So.
Nice.
Yep. And my husband, some of you may know my husband too. He was a teacher here in town for 14 years. He's an assistant principal, so he's been with the kids too. And we're just a big family that likes to work with the community. So.
Where are you doing your grad work, Melissa?
Regis College.
Oh, okay.
Near Boston.
I have an MSW too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally career shift for me, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, welcome to recreation.
Thank you.
Welcome, Melissa.
Welcome. Welcome. Welcome.
Can we join in the sandcastle contest too?
Yeah, we can have an adult one and a kid one, like kids against the parents.
There you go.
Yeah.
Stu, I have a question.
Sure.
Just wondering, I saw on the agenda, Melissa is our new beaches coordinator. This is not the recreation coordinator position?
Oh, yeah.
Beaches.
Right.
Okay.
So one of the things that we had decided upon as part of the voting was we split the rec coordinator position into a parks program, a programs coordinator, and then also to the beaches coordinator. So there are 2 different positions that basically handle, if it's green, it's in one place, and if it's water, it's in another, right? So that's how this breaks down. So it's not we do not have the recreation coordinator position as a whole. Part of the reason with that was in looking at one of the responsibilities that had been in that role before that I think we as a commission started taking on more was events. And it just seemed like we didn't necessarily need somebody that wrapped into that period of time. Although I think in speaking with Chris Cotta, it's something we can look at in the future if we feel like we need to reevaluate that as we grow as a commission. So for now, it was really split between the 2. And last year in particular, brought into focus that the beaches on their own right are one big main focus. So.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Well, welcome, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank
So Melissa, just as a administrative note, normally we meet once a month. This is out of cycle for us normally. It's just a kind of a check-in meeting. And what we'll normally do is ask you just to give an update on what's been going on with the beaches. We'll have a treasurer's report. We have a number of partners that we'll present, and then we'll have general business. So this is an abbreviated meeting for tonight, but usually we try to run about an hour to an hour and a half when we meet. So.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So there's only one item on the agenda from a facility use request standpoint. This is a food truck request from Mike Napolitano, who I spoke to, but he's actually working right now, so he can't attend. You should all have a photocopy of the form. We went back and forth before on creating a form, and then after speaking with the solicitor and the town clerk, what became apparent is that the scope of what recreation should be accounting for is not approving or not approving. We literally should be looking at whether scheduling is available, and then from there, the person who's petitioning needs to go in front of, I believe, the town council for approval. So at this particular moment, this is what the town clerk asked us to have him fill out. This process may change in the future, but this is what we were asked to have him complete for now. Just one note for the application is that the dimensions for the truck are, it's a 12x8. So I asked him to fill that in, and the cart that he's also requesting is just his Dell's lemonade cart. I think a lot of you have seen it. So not a real big footprint on that. And to date, we have no other applications that have come in front of us to utilize space at Grinnell's. So what is being requested here is essentially access for Thursday through Sunday, more or less to be able to float where requested between them. Because this is a new endeavor in our space, what I would suggest we do is consider this under the concept of we can put a stipulation that if we get additional petitions that come in, we reserve the right to adjust scheduling as needed. But for right now, I don't have any objections, and we'll do it as a formal vote, but I would just offer that there's nobody else in the space at the moment. So
That makes sense.
So I will, right at the moment, entertain a motion to approve the food vendor facility use request for, it's listed in here as a Brew Dude and Dell's Lemonade.
I'm sorry, is this just for Grinnell's, or is it for Grinnell's and Foghorn?
He is looking for access to in June, July, and August, and it says for actually there's multiple locations listed on here. So the form, the way that it reads,
I missed page 2, sorry.
oh yeah, no worries, no worries. So could I entertain a motion to approve the food vendor facility use request from Brew Dude and Dell's Lemonade for Grinnell's, Fogland, and Bulgamarsh between the dates of June 17th and let's say August 31st.
Stuart,
Can I ask a question or?
Yeah. So Bob and then Rachel.
At Grinnell's, where are they gonna park?
There's the dedicated parking right over there.
Yep.
Okay. Because I mean, we're very limited on space down there right now as far as parking goes and stuff like that. So, I mean, is this something that's going to take up 2 or 3 spots, or are we going to lose 2 or 3 spots, 4 spots, or?
Well, so two different notes on that. The grant itself specifically calls for spaces for a food truck. That was built into it. So there is one designated spot for a food truck. My perception based on things that have happened in the past is he'd really be looking to put the cart there more likely, because that's what he's done on a more regular basis. But
He doesn't even use and he doesn't even use necessarily a parking space for the cart. He puts that up kind of that grassy area.
Last year, didn't they park on like Main Road?
Yes.
Wasn't a Dell lemonade thing up on Main Road next to the pavilion? And then they would go that way. And then I was thinking, like, if they got a big food truck, could they park on Main Road next to the statue facing in? No? Okay.
I think so. Rachel, did you have a question or comment?
no, I was just going to make a motion to approve the request And if Dana wants to take notes, I was going to make a motion to approve the food vendor facility use request for Brew Dude and Dell's Lemonade. That was submitted by Mike Napolitano for June, July, August, Grinnell's, Fogland, and Bogamarsh. And that would be pending all of the legal requirements and approval of the town council. And also with the stipulation that should we have more vendors come forward, we would work to adjust scheduling.
I'd second that motion.
Thank you. So we have a motion, and a second. From a discussion standpoint, and I want to direct this to the counselors we have on the call. This is a sort of a newer process for us. Do you foresee any logistical challenges with what we've put forth to this point? Mike, you're muted. Sorry.
I don't think so. I mean, you're using the spot that was designated for vendors, and you're giving the flexibility that if others come forward, you can do that. I think that will be good from my perspective. I don't know. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. You're meeting up to the requirements of the grant. And if somebody else comes forward and wants, then you just do like we had talked. One day, one person, another day, and just divide it up fairly like that. I don't think it should be a problem.
Yeah. And I do want to just publicly commend Mike, because he's been very open. Like, I bounced things off him in this process, and he's been a really good neighbor in the community in a lot of different ways. So, you know, I don't think there'd be any objection to him, the stipulation of saying, look, we might need to change it if somebody else comes forward. He's actually offered that up too. So.
Yeah, I agree with that, Stu. Mike is one of the easiest going guys, you know, in the community. He's willing to do anything he can to help, and he doesn't want to step on anybody's toes. So I'm sure if something came up, he would be the first one to say, hey, let's divide it up equally.
And I'll add to that, Mike's a great contributor to the town in general. Earlier today, he had donated some Dell's Lemonade to one of the elementary schools' field day. He does that over and over again. He's really just a great supporter of the town and town activities. And I agree, he's been incredibly easy to work with.
He also makes a really good lobster roll. I just wanted to offer.
I'm gonna agree with you, Stu, but I was trying to keep that a secret.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's awful. It's bad. Don't even.
Same for us.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Anybody opposed? All right, motion carries. I will let Mr. Napolitano know. All right, so public comment. One piece, just a note, there was an email that I was asked to forward off. You should have that from everybody. It was regarding RVs from Linda Gouvet. I think I got her last name, if I said that correctly. Just a notice on what they're seeing down there from an RV standpoint, and that they're being good neighbors, and we appreciate their support. The second item on here, Martin Van Hoff had reached out to me regarding, as he requested, potential improvements to the Bogamarsh playgrounds that he wanted to voice some comments to us as a commission about. I informed him we were having the meeting and add him to the agenda. I have not seen him in the participants list, and he hasn't responded. So I'll inform him that I'm going to bump it to the next meeting. But at this time, there's nothing for me to provide as content. So with that said, we move on to general business. And so the first one in here is beach protocols, just as an update. Bob, if I can ask you to lead off kind of what you've seen so far and what your thoughts are, and then maybe we'll kind of go from there.
Well, first of all, the great news is the town council passed, allowed the money to put cameras on the Fogland. Speaking to the chief, we're hoping to have them up and running by the 4th of July. It's not carved in stone, but that's what we're hoping for. So that's a real good thing. We have had our fair share of problems down at Grinnell's so far this year. I mean, Fogland, I'm sorry. Everybody knows about the picnic table. Last week, we found a lifeguard chair tipped over on its side. Chris came to bat with his son, Dana, the Ninja Turtle. We got it up. Somebody took a little fall, but moved pretty quick for an old guy. But we got it back up on its feet, and that's all set. We had a couple of issues down there. I spoke to Phil. He put a trash barrel in the ladies' room. So hopefully one of the problems we had, that won't happen again this year, going forward. We've had a lot of complaints about dogs. It's an ordinance. It's there that no dogs allowed on the beach from April 30th until Columbus Day. When a vehicle pulls up, we do not look for the dogs. Some of them got tinted windows or whatever. But if a dog is there in plain view, we ask them, we tell them that they can't, no dogs allowed on the beach. We've been having a lot of problems with that, a lot of fights, a lot of arguments, and they're going to do it anyways. So I think what we should do is we should look into getting more signage put up. Maybe on the way in or something, put a sign, no dogs allowed from April 30th until Columbus Day. It does cause a problem. Another thing that happened down there was one of the gate attendants, this gentleman pulled in, Portuguese gentleman from out of state. He had a handicap sticker and he had a co-organ license. And he said with that handicap sticker and a co-organ license, he could get in for free. He didn't have to pay. We tried to explain it to him that, he has to pay. I mean, we do not give free parking to handicap. And just because you get a co-organ license doesn't mean that you can park for free. He actually got to a point where he opened the door, he's going to get out of the truck to go approach the gate attendant, who actually walked away. I was up taking care of something in a woman's room. I came back, came up. He wanted the police there. But anyway, make long story short, we'll get that taken care of. But people have no regards or respect for any of the rules and regulations on there. So I think we're going to make the rules and regulations a little bit clearer. I think we need to post signs on the way in. I'd also like to see if we can put some speed bumps in there, slow some people down, especially coming towards the gatehouse, because this happened 3 times within the last 2 weeks. And it's all not out-of-state cars. They wait at the top of the road until there's no cars and they don't see anybody. And then they come flying down the road. They do at least 25, 30 miles an hour. They go right through the stop sign. They go right down and try and get a spot on the beach. I've gone after 2 of them, had them come back and pay again, called every name in the book and then some. Even my wife was there one day and she learned some new names for me. After 44 years of marriage, she actually found a few new names to call me. But, it's just something I think, I think the speed bumps will be a big plus. It'll slow them down and it'll protect the workers at the shack and also the beachgoers. So that's something I think we really should look into. Another thing I think we should look into is probably see if we could lower the speed limit on that road from 20 miles an hour down to 10 miles an hour. There's a lot of sand on that road. There's a lot of kids in the summer. It's congested. And I think 20 miles an hour is just a little too fast for that area. If a kid runs out, and I've seen it happen, a kid jot out, you're going to hit your brakes. A lot of it's sand. You're going to skid. So I think that's something that we have to look into. Maybe we could bring the speed limit down to 10 miles an hour in that stretch. But other than that, everything's going good. I mean, we've been, drawing in some decent money. This weekend, we only have 1 lifeguard for Saturday. We don't have any lifeguards for Sunday. I'm having trouble getting gate attendants for Sunday. So my suggestion is going to be just close it down for Sunday. The only thing we're going to be able to do is sell a resident passes anyways, with no lifeguards at either beach. So my suggestion is just this Sunday, just shut it down totally. People can go in and stuff, but keep the bathrooms closed and don't put any gate attendants on. That's my suggestion, but that's up to you guys.
If I can, I want to address a couple things that you mentioned, Bob. I'm concerned in how we're handling controversy or confrontation at the gatehouse. And I want to make sure that we are de-escalating situations. And if that means we let somebody through that is not obeying and we handle it another way, I think that's really important. I can certainly tell you in my training, in my profession, I don't think it's any secret. I'm a pharmacist, and it was very important during our training that we were told if somebody comes to rob your store, don't stand on principle and lose your life because you're trying to protect some Percocet or something like that. It's really important to diffuse the situation, do whatever it takes to protect yourself and minimize any risk of harm or injury, and then let them leave and take down as much information as you can, whether it's a license plate, a physical description, call the police afterwards if a crime's been committed. But it's really important not to try to confront. And I'm a little concerned because you're telling me that your conversation with the gentleman with the quahog led him to get physically aggressive and exit the car, and that you're chasing down people who go through that stop sign. I'm worried for you. I'm worried for the gate attendants that are there with you. And I don't know if this is the right approach. So, I just want to open it up to discussion for some of the comments from our other commission members. I realize we want people to do the right thing and obey the rules. I don't ever want that to happen at the risk of potential injury to one of our recreation members, one of our staff members down at the gatehouse, a lifeguard, or even just another beachgoer who happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I have some concerns, I guess, and that was, I commend what you're trying to do. I'm certainly a rule follower myself, and I agree that people should follow the rules, but they won't for sure. And I want to be very mindful of how we handle that when they don't, and de-escalating.
That the gate attendant did walk away. I mean, it wasn't like it was a 5-minute or even a 3-minute battle. It lasted like not even maybe a minute and a half, and the gate attendant walked away. I came over. I explained to him, the rules and stuff like that. You have to pay. I mean, just because you have a handicap or just because you have a co-operative license, it does not give you the right to park for free. You still have to park. He ended up leaving. I mean, he was angry. He ended up leaving. But if you know the old-time Portuguese men and how they treat women.
Hold on.
Yeah, Bob, that's slippery slope.
No. We're not going to go down that road.
No. I'm just saying. I mean, that's what happened there. It's solved. It's over and done with, and we're moving forward.
Right. So I do want to be really clear that we can discuss an incident that relates to an individual, but I'm really uncomfortable with the idea of relating it to a whole ethnicity. I can't go down that road, and we won't.
That's fine.
So,
that's fine.
I would say two things. One, there's been a lot that's transpired this year with regards to what we've had to do to get to where we are. Things have changed. There's been a lot of chaos. And I want to first commend you, Bob, because you've been the guy that has stepped up and you've been front and center on this, and you've taken a lot of heat in a lot of places. And so I want to put a period after that sentence and say, I thank you for what you're doing. I will say that I think we're at the point now, because we're fortunate enough to have Melissa coming on board, that the last part of what you said about who's coming in for the weekends and that kind of stuff, we need to transition, right? So, and you and I have had these conversations offline about looking at how do we address some of the ordinances for things like RVs for overnight, and really address at the root of the problems, which we can do in a really tactful way with input from the community. What I want to make sure we keep in mind is a little bit of what Rachel was talking about, that at the end of the day, the goal of the Recreation Commission is to support recreation in the community. And we're talking in most cases about $10 here, maybe 20. It's something where logging it and then making sure that we hand it off to the police if necessary, or de-escalating wherever possible. I think that's really important. I do agree with you on one very big point, is that we should be putting out bigger signs that clarify what the rules are. And in fact, the American Red Cross in their review specifically calls out that they want to see clear guidelines listed. And we have some, but we need to go back and review that again. So what I would offer is that I think as we move into this weekend and beyond, more of a transition with Melissa, and you and I and others can figure out how to put more of the scaffolding in place to make sure that we're providing the best experience possible for beach attendants. And I get your point, and beach goers, excuse me. People sometimes are just going to be jerks, right? That's the reality of life. But when we look at something like dogs, there are ordinances that are already on the books. So how do we talk about enforcement in that space that doesn't put you or any of the gate attendants or others in crosshairs for something? We do need to address it, but I'd rather go look at it, how we handle it separately. So I hope you understand, we're not trying to sit here and beat you up for it. I get where you're coming from, but we also want to make sure we're not creating more conflict points. So Joe, please.
Yeah, would it be possible if we made up like flyers, print something out on a computer, run off some copies, and when people come in, just hand them a copy. Hey, here's the rules. And because a lot of people don't know what the rules are. So if every time they come in, we just hand them a piece of paper explaining what they are, maybe that would help.
Yeah, I think we can definitely look at that or other alternatives to it. My only concern with flyers, and I saw this with some of our town farm, the pavers brochures, is you find them on the trash and then the ground, and then you end up creating like a litter issue. I love the concept of how do we better educate people, and I think we should brainstorm a little bit more on that. But it's how do we separate ourselves out from being in the crosshairs and some of this stuff.
Well, I just think that signs, we're getting to the point where we got a sign for no lifeguard on duty. We've got a sign for this. We've got a sign. Before you know it, we're going to have signs everywhere. So it might just be easier just handing people a flyer that states the rules, and so be it. Maybe that'll help.
Hey, I wanted to also mention, after our last meeting, the chief of police mentioned he's going to have more patrols down there. I've been noticing the guys going down there at night, going down and, just kind of talking to people who are on the beach at like 7, 8 o'clock, right around sunset, and just kind of like more or less saying, hello, we're here. Very, very, and when you talked about de-escalating, very de-escalating, but very much that there's a presence here, somebody kind of like patrolling, and they've been down there for the last couple of weeks, every night. So they're getting down there. So it's pretty cool. So definitely thanks to the Tiverton police for their help.
Yeah, I did have one question for the group, and I know Melissa, you're brand new to this position, so maybe this is more of a Bob question or anyone else if you've heard anything. Are we collecting? Are we attempting to collect beach fees prior to 9 a.m. prior to the beach opening? Have we been down at that gate attendant's house trying to collect? Anybody hear of that or see of that?
I'll tell you what. Normally what happens, we get down there before 9 o'clock. We get there about 7:45 or so. We bring everything out. So at 9 o'clock, we're ready to go.
Okay.
In the past, myself and council member, we've been getting down there as early as 5:45 in the morning. These people, it's well known out there that if you get to the beach before 9 o'clock, you can get in for free and you're not going to pay. So we generally tell them, we take their license plate number down and we tell them, you have to come up here by 9 o'clock and pay whatever the fee is. If you don't, we're going to go looking for you. We can't do that. We know that, but it worked. We're collecting more money. Last Sunday, I got down there a little bit earlier. I'm putting out the stuff. This van pulls up with a surfboard or whatever. When he pulls up, he stops. He rolled down his window and he looked at me and he said, they told me if I come in here before 9 o'clock, I don't have to pay. So I just turned around, looked down, and I said, they lied to you. $20. It was quarter of. It was 15 minutes early. I said, they lied to you. You got to pay. So he ended up, he didn't argue. He paid the $20 and he went in. If he would have stopped and not said anything, would have said something to me, well, I would have said, go ahead, we'll write your license plate number down, come back and pay. That's it. But when somebody stops and they look at you and say, I was told that if you come in here before 9 o'clock, you don't have to pay, they know that they're doing something wrong. So I made them pay.
Okay. I don't know if, yeah, I worry about the legality. Chris Cotta was pretty clear that we couldn't charge when the beach wasn't open, because we had questioned that about having gate attendants charge more or less for a parking fee. But it was pretty clear, no lifeguard duty, no charge, that the beach is not considered open. So maybe this is a follow-up. I don't know if you want to take that back to Chris Cotta, Stu, and see if there's any concerns there with us collecting prior to the opening. But I think the bigger question is there anything that prevents us from opening that beach earlier? If we really feel like 9 a.m. is just far too late, too many of the spots are gone by then, and we've lost out on the opportunity to collect beach fees, is there something that stops us from opening the beach at 7 or 8? And I don't know who would have that answer.
We discussed that last year about opening from 7 to 5 instead of from 9 to 4.
Okay.
It never went anywhere.
Okay. Because that's just something. Yeah, that's
staffing, because you got to get like 2 shifts at that case, and we did talk about that. I think even last week or last meeting.
Yeah. And what do we currently? Is it 9 to 3? Is it?
I think it's 9 to 4.
9 to
I'm
4.
not positive. It could be 9 to 5, but I think it's 9 to 4.
I think it's 9 to 4 as well. Yep.
Okay. I mean, certainly 8 to 4 is still within an 8-hour day. And if we think that would make a difference, just something to consider. I don't think we've ever done any great data collection to see really how many people are showing up between 7 and 8, or 8 and 9, and 9 and 10. So some of it is really just not clear to me on whether or not that would be necessary on both fronts, right? If 3 cars slip through, $30, I'm not sure we should really create that much chaos to go chasing down $30. Or is it so much larger that it is worth bringing the lifeguard in 1 hour earlier? You know,
Well,
how many cars would you have to offset?
Last year, when Bob and I went down at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays, between 6 and 9, there was about 30 to 35 cars that came in.
So 30 to 35 cars, if they were charged, even if we charged, I don't know, the $10, I think on the weekend it's 20, correct? So
Yep.
even if we caught half of them at $20 an hour, 30 cars, $600, half of that is 300. How much is that lifeguard for that extra 1 hour?
Well, that last
Yeah,
piece
or
that you
extra.
said is sort of one of my concerns here, is that because there is not a direct correlation between revenue generated and expense within our budget, recreation would be incurring an additional expense for money that's going into the general budget. So if we decide to expand the scope on this, I would be very interested to get the town council's take on, there's an opportunity for us to make more money. However, at the moment, I'm more inclined to look at setting up an ordinance that indicates that if you come in outside of those hours, the police have the right to ticket you. Councilor Burke?
I just want to go back, Bob. I want to make sure I heard right. What you had said was that if after 9 o'clock, when you got there were cars already on the beach, you would ask meaning you, the attendant, whomever, would ask them, go up to the people and say, could you come back and pay after 9 o'clock? Is that accurate?
Yes.
And then for this fellow with the paddleboard or surfboard, whatever, probably a paddleboard. I don't think you can really surf back there, but I don't do any of those things. You gave him an option. He could do was 8:45. He could pay on the way in, or come back after 9 o'clock and pay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't hear you saying that you were charging for outside of the hours. It was just giving people the opportunity to come back.
Yeah, that's not what I heard Bob say. I think I heard Bob say that because it was close, he just said, no, people lied to you, you need to pay. I did, I think that was in Bob's, in his mind.
I apologize, but I heard him say what you just described, but then also say that he said to the guy, you can do it now or you can come back after 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I'll apologize if I misheard that. Bob, did you actually tell the gentleman he could come back and pay?
Not this gentleman, because the way he's saying that, I heard that if you come in before 9 o'clock, you didn't have to pay.
Okay.
If and Joe will tell you this. The first Saturday, the first weekend we went down there, we probably had between Saturday and Sunday 40 to 50 cars between both days. Then word got out that we were going down there early in the morning and taking paper registration numbers and having people come back and pay. Towards the end, it was dropping down to 5 or 6 cars because they knew what we were doing. And they would, not all of them, not 100% would come back and pay, but 95% of them would come back up and pay. What we need to do, the best way to solve this, in my opinion, what we need to do is we have to follow what South Shore did. We have to come up with an ordinance that the beach is closed from 10 o'clock at night until 7 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's allowed on the beach. From 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the morning, it'd be Tiverton residents only. Because what ends up happening is when you get down there and there's 20 or 30 cars, and Joe can verify this, they're taking all the good spots and they're not Tiverton residents. So now the Tiverton residents come down, all the decent spots are taken by people that are basically scavenging, just coming in and not paying. So if we can come up with an ordinance that states that from 10 o'clock at night until 7 o'clock in the morning, no one is allowed to park on the beach. From 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the morning, the first 2 hours be Tiverton residents only. And then from 9 o'clock in the morning until sunset, anybody. And then from sunset till 10 o'clock at night, Tiverton residents only again. Very similar to what they're doing down at South Shore. That would solve 99.9% of our problem, in my opinion.
Right. And so just to offer, writing an ordinance for that or for other things like overnighting with RVs will definitely address a lot of what we're discussing here. That process is not going to be quick, candidly. I mean, by the time we finish drafting it and have it ready for our next meeting, and then it goes in front of the town council and then it gets voted on, we're going to be more than halfway through the summer. So I agree that it's something we're going to have to look at. The reality is right now, we have parameters based on what legally is there. And so that's what we have to work with. So I think as long as we're clear on, I understand the intent of it, but we also need to make sure we work within the framework of what we've got. And that's really important at this point. So I think the other part to this is we have spent a lot of time, and you spent a lot of time, Bob, focusing on staffing and getting us up to speed. The lifeguard issue will continue to be a problem. It continues to be a problem across the state. And just as a note, I did communicate, and I think a number of people have, with Representative Edwards, who essentially said he was not interested in pursuing it. Representative McGaugh was also on the email that I communicated and also indicated she was not, I haven't really heard anything back from her one way or another. So, which is, I will confess, a little depressing because this is an important thing that's impacting a lot of different folks in the community. So I offer that up. Councilor Perry.
Yeah, I also talked to Walter Felag about it also, and he said that between him and Jay Edwards, they did not want to jeopardize the safety and well-being of anybody over allowing parking and restrooms facilities to be charged without lifeguards. So that's why they did not want to touch that.
No, I appreciate where their viewpoint was on it, but I will also offer that the state of Connecticut managed to find a way to introduce an exemption. And so I have to confess, I personally think it's a little short-sighted.
I mentioned that to them also about Connecticut changing their rule, and he said they were afraid it would be political suicide. So
I respect their views, but I will also respectfully disagree. So.
Yep. I agree.
At any point. All right. So in terms of beach protocols, I think where we're at the moment, if I'm hearing, just to kind of synthesize this into a couple of points, we've had a couple of challenges earlier on in the year. Some of them are probably newer. A lot of them, I think, maybe we're just bringing more attention to than we've had in the past, like the tables burning. The town council has kindly stepped up to help us provide security cameras that we expect to have installed relatively soon, and that will help alleviate, I believe, some of the concerns. Bob, you bring up some good points about looking to install speed bumps and then potentially identifying speed limit changes, and we'll continue to investigate those and see what might work. We may have to monitor and adjust as we go. And then the last piece with regards to gate attendance and collecting fees, we have set parameters and hours. We can discuss looking at moving those, but we have our hours. And Melissa, we're going to entrust you to handle what happens at that gate and manage the staff accordingly and not put anybody in harm's way. Yes, Joe.
So you just want people to be charged from 9 to 4, not if they come in before or not after, 9 to 4, and that's it.
I would offer personally that if you have people come in, stopping them and note that we're going to be charging starting at 9 and give them the option, should they choose to pay while they're driving by, that's fine. But we are not to be charging earlier than 9. Kind of like what we've done with the resident passes. We're not requiring people to buy them at that time. They can get them, so they have them available. Joe.
Yeah, I'd just like to welcome Melissa aboard and let her know that if there's anything that she needs from me, to please reach out. I'll give her my cell phone number, and I'm sure Mike's the same way. Anything we can do to help, because I know it's going to be quite the task coming on board. But we've been here, we've done it before, so anything we can do to help you, feel free to call me at any time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Melissa, I would just add, again, safety first. So if you can work with the gate attendants to understand that I don't want them fighting with the unruly or difficult beach patrons that may come through, de-escalate, put their safety first over the beach fee, and they can make note of somebody's license plate number or reach out to one of us after the fact. But I would really rather they de-escalate the situation and let them through without collecting.
What my plan is to have a meeting with all of them next Tuesday so I can meet everyone and go over everything as a group rather than individually trying to meet everyone at the gate. So I'm going to go over all those things with them together as a group.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the commission? I noticed Chief Jones has joined us as well. He's been here. I know, Chief, you've been listening in the background. Do you have any thoughts you want to offer up or share?
Good evening, everybody. So just to kind of unpack a couple things, I agree with Rachel completely. I think that this came up during one of the early commission meetings when we talked about the escalation, and it is not the role of the gate attendants to get into any sort of conversation with anyone. I mean, it should be customer service first, and they become, and I think I use the expression, being the best witness you possibly can be. So their job to do there is to collect the fees. If they have any sort of negative interaction with anyone, I would suggest that they just wave them through, get their license plate, and then call us. And then we will go down there and we will take care of the matter from there. It's not their job to be, to chase after fees. That's, if it's something that violates the ordinance or any sort of regulation, that's the police department's job, because they don't know. We're talking about young men and women. Most of them, and I would imagine, are under the age of 18. This is a summer job. This isn't something that they should be engaging in, and I'm sure they don't expect to be engaging in chasing people for fees. So, and I also absolutely agree that the camera system installation, which I'm working with the vendor as we speak, will be a game changer for everything, for the security. I've also spoken with Bob about the safety regarding speeding, and I agree. Director Rogers has the speed bumps at the DPW garage. I'm sure it's just a matter of him getting down there and installing them. And I'll speak to him before the end of the week. And I've communicated with the administrator, and I know he's on board with it as well. And then anything else regarding ordinance changes, I'll work with the commission as a whole and Stu and with the council regarding anything that needs to be changed or tweaked so the police department can have a little more enforcement, at least teeth. And I say that because it's not something that we want to utilize. That is always a last resort. Mm-hmm. I mean, the presence of the police department down there is to be friendly so people can enjoy all the recreation areas in town, and to including the beach. It should be a positive experience all the way around. But on those extreme conditions or incidents that take place We have the proper ordinances and regulations that the police department can take proper legal action, but that should only be through the police department and no one else. So this way, and I hate to use this terminology, but if it gets to that point, we will be those bad guys. That's what we get paid to do. So, and we will take care of that. And then those are the type of people that we don't want at our recreation areas anyway. People who would go there and vandalize or burn up a picnic table, they're unwelcome. Everyone else is very welcome. And as long as they come and enjoy our recreation areas. And the last thing I'll say is about, and I know Bob had brought it up about the dogs. I know the animal control officer as well. She'll be working during the weekends. So I can make sure that she's out there kind of just making sure that if there are any animal issues, that she can go down there and she can address those issues. So it's, again, we're trying to promote, and I know all of you are as well, a positive experience to our town and to our beaches. And that's what we want to do. And if there's any issues that come up, hopefully the picnic table issue was a one-off, and that going forward, this is a great season. And then we can just kind of keep tweaking issues to make it better.
Hey, Chief, can I ask one question?
Yes, sir. Of course.
Do you think it might be possible to have the police officer start a little bit earlier? So this way here, they're down like at Fogland for 9 o'clock. Because that's when most of the problems start, is when they're first going in. So if with the police officer there, and I think, if we get in there at 9 o'clock instead of sometimes they don't show up until 10:30. So I think if we can get an officer there when we first open up, they see a cruiser there. I think that would probably solve a lot of the problems too. Again, this is 1% of the people. This is not everybody. 90% of the people. Somebody came in the other day with a letter from their landlord in a Massachusetts car that stated that they lived in Tiverton for 3 years and they wanted to get a residence pass. And we told them, you can't. We need either a tax bill or, a letter from a landlord saying you lived in Tiverton for 3 years. Your car's still registered in Massachusetts. Your license and everything's still written in Massachusetts. We can't give you a residence pass. They left. There was no big issue. I mean, they tried to get away with something, and it didn't happen. I mean, people are going to try and do anything they can to try and get away with stuff. And it's not like everybody's confrontational. We've had maybe 2 or 3 out of everybody out of the 600 that we've had in there. So it's not like it's happens all the time.
And just as a follow-up to your point, Bob, one of the things that Bob and I have worked on pretty diligently, and I want to commend him for it over the last year, is putting together that operations manual. And in there is a scope of what is acceptable for getting a pass. And we've talked through a number of different scenarios. He and I have been talking pretty regularly. There's also a whole section in there based around how to interact with service dogs, weather policies, all the stuff is in there. And I know, and having spoken to Melissa, she's going to, make sure that the staff is aware of some of that stuff once she's able to get acclimated to it too. So every day we try to get a little bit better. I really do appreciate everything Bob has done to help us get to this point. I think that's something we need to be really cognizant of right at the moment, because frankly, we wouldn't have anybody here right now if it wasn't for Bob. So appreciative of what you're doing, trying to come up with some new ways to just get better every day. And Bob, I just do want to say thank you for all you're doing, dude. So
yeah, thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. I'm we're just trying to just move forward and do the right thing. That's all.
And backwards is awkward. So yeah, I'm with you on the forwards part. So.
Dude, did we find out the answer about the service dogs, or Chief Jones might know that as well? How do you say no to someone with a service dog?
I would tend to lean on the side of you don't say no to a service dog, but it absolutely has to be leashed. No question about that.
Yep.
So,
and do you ask someone, like, do they carry something with them? I don't want to ask someone, is that your service dog? But if they say it to me, should they prove it to me or the gate attendant? Or
I would
yeah,
say
we can't. Yeah, we can't ask. So there's rules. There's definitely clear American with Disability implications here. So general rule of thumb is no, we can't ask them to provide any documentation or proof. If they tell us it's a service dog, we really do have to take it at face value. But I appreciate Chief Jones supporting that they need to be leashed.
Okay, perfect.
You
And
can ask if it's a
I can.
service dog.
And I can share that we don't have to tolerate service dogs that are being disruptive. So that's something that comes up in other organizations. Yes, your service dog has a right to be with you, but not if it poses a disruption. So if that were the case, I would guide the gate attendants to contact the police department to address the service dog that is being a disruption to the beach. Or potentially a safety hazard.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question? If somebody pulls up and we see a dog in plain view in a car, do we just let them go? We just don't even worry about it. Just let them go in.
No,
Or
what you
we
can do.
The dogs are not allowed in the beach area.
Right. So, Bob, what you can do is you can ask if the animal is a service animal. If they say yes, the conversation stops there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think to support what Chief Jones said is it would actually be helpful to have this really verbatim for the gate attendants so that they get it right 100% of the time. Is the animal a service animal? And if they say no, then the conversation about dogs are not allowed. If they say yes, then I think the response should be, okay, the animal needs to remain on a leash at all times.
Yep.
The other thing, two things I would add is to Bob's point. So we've been putting the special officers or the police officers down there starting at 9 o'clock. So we've been doing 8-hour shifts, 9 to 5, 2 to 10. So we can have that officer down there later, knowing that we have a group of people who enjoy the beach later on. And also that kind of also shows a presence that, we're always there. So I have no problems bringing in the officers like 30 minutes early, and I know that won't be an issue whatsoever. And I'll address the other issue too. I know that was brought up about signage, and I'm sure all of us have been to South Shore. Right at the gate, they have this enormous sign that has all the rules that says you can, and I mean some of it is even actually in red that you can't do this, you can't do that. And I know from given what I do, we call that notice. So any ordinance that you put out, if you're putting a big old sign there, even if we take it down off season, whether we mount it, put it somewhere that is just when you're coming through the gate or coming down that road, these are the rules. And it's if anyone has any question, even your gate attendants can kind of just point to the sign, and I think it just makes it easier on everyone. And I also agree with the issue that came up. If you were going to start handing things out, as well as I do, and I hate to say it, but it's going to happen. If you start passing anything out to individuals, it's going to wind up on the ground. We're all going to be picking this stuff up before. If we could invest in just one big sign, it's going to help us too. When we start passing ordinances or we need to enforce an ordinance, I don't know of any judge in the world that's going to deny us if when you walk into an area, there's a big sign saying you can't do something and you did it. So that would be just my suggestion if we were going to look into doing something like that.
We do have a sign right now down there, but it's on the guard shack facing the road, and it's really not. It's there, but it's not easy to see. So I think we need to find a better place to put that, so they see it on the way in. I can talk to Phil, but the problem is too that road is pretty narrow, and I mean it's something we need to look at.
Well, and I would just also suggest, and sorry, I don't mean to take up this meeting because I know you folks have other things to do. If the DPW director is going to go down there and install those speed bumps, also ask Rick if he could just put up a post or a double post. If you decide that you want to do something like that or move the sign, and that's something you decide to do, I would have Rick kind of have a punch list of things that you folks want to do, install the speed bumps, move the sign, things like that. So this way we can get that stuff done.
Yeah, we could actually put it on the other, on the opposite side of the road. There's a couple of spots there right now where they have those big cement blocks. We could probably
Yeah.
sink a couple of poles there. Don't you think about that, Chris?
I was thinking I was thinking more like in front of the guard shack where there's that stone on the left side as you're coming in on the left. Because people are, the drivers are going to be on the left side. The sign will be on the left.
Yeah.
And it's not as wet over there. The other side of the road gets, if you do on the right side, it gets kind of mushy. I think that's a good way because then you can see it. It'll be right there.
Yep.
And I think looking at what that sign says would be important. So right now, putting up what we have would probably be a good start. And then we can basically next meeting, maybe we can look at what that sign has on it for content and start reviewing that, making sure everything's what we want it to say. And it's accurate.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? Dana, yes, please.
So I want to go back to the dogs on the beach, and I don't know if this is actually how the ordinance is written, but what is on our website, I sent out an email the other day, and to me, that is really unclear, part of it. And I mean, the first part is great. Dogs are not allowed on beaches during beach season. But then it goes on to say dogs are allowed during off season and in off beach areas, but should be leashed. First of all, what's the off beach area? And is that in off beach areas only off season, or is that anytime?
Should scrap that line.
Like I said, I don't know if the ordinance is written that way, but whatever's on our website, I think we need to not our website, but on the town website. I just think it needs to be simplified and very clear cut as to when dogs are and are not allowed.
So why don't we look at the ordinance real quick? Because I happen to have it right here because I'm a dork. All right, so.
That's why we love you, Stu.
So the ordinance reads, dogs are not permitted in the Pecasset Ridge Conservation Area. This is 54-31, additional rules for open space areas. I think this is the right one from a quick glance. Dogs are permitted in the Fogland Beach Conservation Area only in off-beach season, Columbus to April, but must be restrained to prevent damage to the fragile dune system. Dogs are allowed on marked trails at all spaces. Let's see here. If not leashed, a leash must be carried by the person controlling the dog. So this is what I believe, just because it says that they're permitted here in off-beach season.
Well, number 7 says something about Fogland too. Public use.
Oh, sorry, I went too far. Yeah, this deals with the marsh and the dune system. See if I can make this bigger for everybody.
What's interesting is it doesn't address Grinnell's. So I don't know if there's more.
There are a number of different other ordinances in here. I just typed in dogs, beaches, and this is what I got quickly. Now,
Okay.
I could probably give us a more detailed overview. I'd like to thank Chief Jones for unleashing me on this because I review it on a more regular basis than I care to admit. So, yeah.
And Stu, related but a little off topic as far as reviewing things, you mentioned that you and Bob had worked really hard on coming up with a nice operations manual, if you will, for the beaches. And I know you're such a high-tech guy. I'm sure you have that in an electronic copy. Would that be a fair request to have that shared, sent out in an email? I think it would be helpful for me to reference it when things come up or something's brought to my attention.
Yeah, I will offer, I have to update it to reflect that Melissa has been hired. So it was a version of the one we'd had when Sarah was here. And then there were some changes made based on the American Red Cross recommendations. And then it was changed to reflect just Bob and I kind of holding down the fort. And then I need to update it again. So I will do the updating on the contacts and then send it back out to everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So that ordinance only addressed from Columbus Day through April. It doesn't really say if they can be in the off beach areas during the summer on a leash.
What it says is dogs are permitted at the Fogland Beach Conservation Area only in off-beach season, Columbus Day to April 30th. So that's the first part of it. So it's the dates that I think are inherent.
Really, anytime there's a dog that's not a service dog at the beach.
That's how I interpret it, Dana. With what Stu just pulled up, that says they can only be there ever during that Columbus Day to whatever that date was. But there may be more to it, and I think that's what Stu was looking into. Is are there other ordinances somewhere further down?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you guys were all frozen. I didn't hear any of that.
I just said I agree with you, Dana, that's how I'm reading the section that Stu just brought up, is that they are only permitted Columbus Day through, I forget what that said, May?
April 30th.
April 30th, okay.
So I guess I'm being dense. I apologize. I'm not following. What we basically say is they're not allowed during our beach season, during the summer,
Right.
essentially. We do allow them for the rest of the year at Fogland, which I think is what the ordinance implies.
Yeah.
Is that everybody's understanding on this, or am I missing something?
I think that's our understanding. And Stu, being such a high-tech guy, do you want to pull up the website, the verbiage that Dana has found on our website?
Sure.
I think that's the point of clarification so that the public can understand better. And we can understand better.
One second. So in looking at it, dogs are not allowed on beaches during beach season. Dogs are allowed during off-season and in off-beach areas, but should be leashed.
Why does it have the clause "and in off-beach areas"?
Because I believe in here, the term off-beach is also in the ordinance. So it is likely that it's there. What it should read is, and we can update it, it should have the actual dates, or the ordinance should be cut and pasted.
Go back to the ordinance, Stu, I'm sorry. So the first line of number 4, dogs are not permitted in the area.
It's the Cassett.
Pecasset. Next, dogs are permitted at Fogland only in off-beach season, but not off-beach areas, off-beach season. So there's some confusion there.
Well,
I agree with Dana.
Which is fine. I understand that and how it's listed on our page.
Yeah.
The ordinance only specifically is addressing Fogland. So what we need to look at in here is dogs are not allowed on beaches during beach season. I get that this is the piece in here.
Yep. If we could get rid of that, maybe that's all that needs to happen is to pull that right out.
Well, I think what also we should look at is to make it clear for the public what is defined as an off-beach area in town. So, for example, Town Farm never allows dogs, ever. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that is not one of the areas that they're able to go. What other areas could constitute availability for dogs?
Yeah. And this is falling under a section titled beaches here. So to me, they're still talking about the beach. So I don't know why we're saying beach and off beach.
Yeah, and what I was kind of thinking is maybe it, instead of, it could be noted here, but maybe it's worth a discussion on should it be listed as a separate section within this. It needs to be evaluated either way, I agree.
Okay. All right. Thanks for bringing that up, Dana. That is as clear as mud.
Well, somebody asked me and I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Let me check the website. That doesn't help.
I basically knew the answer was they're not, from Memorial, there's specific dates, but I always said Memorial Day to Labor Day, no dogs on the beaches. But then in off season they were allowed. But then when I said, well, let me read it. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is confusing me.
So on the beaches, is there anything else that we need to touch on at this particular time? We'll continue to do more work, but. Nope. All right. Just a quick summer camp update. Rachel and I both interviewed somebody today who we feel is going to be potentially a good summer camp person. We're just waiting on a couple of steps, personnel, and but it seems positive we're going in that direction. What I think we're looking at is running a camp, essentially a full camp. So it would go, session 1 would be July 12th to 30th. Session 2 would run August 2nd to 20th. The state requires stable groups of 26 or less, and they can't move from space to space. So what we're looking at is having it set up so you would have a pod of 26, and the American Camp Association recommendations, depending on the age group, are somewhere between 1 to 8 and 1 to 10. So we would look to probably put 3 counselors with each pod. And so in theory, we could run, initial shot 3 to 4 of those. So we're getting somewhere in 70 to 104, I think was the high end that I was looking at if we did 4 of them. So one of the big things, and this is also going to be based on really ramping it up to get applicants for the summer camp. We have a couple that I have reached out to now that we have the guidelines and are able to move forward. I am not inclined to, based on the time frame we're at, of changing any of the pricing from what we've done previously. I also feel like, to be honest, it's been a rough year for a lot of people, and trying to evaluate whether we should increase or not doesn't really seem to make sense at this point. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, Stu, you mentioned session 1 and session 2. I don't remember doing that though. It was like one big 5-week block.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of breaking it down, potentially looking at it as 2 different, and you could have people signing up for both. There's an automatic split in the middle of the summer. We can still do it as one giant session. What I was kind of anticipating was you take whatever the pricing is and you just divide it by 2.
Okay, I think if you did that, that would be fair. I wanted to make sure we weren't thinking about, because it really would change the pricing structure if we charged the same amount for 2 smaller sessions and people had to, pay twice as much. And then Stu, as far as the ratios, I want to go back and look at our budget. I do not believe we've ever had anywhere near those ratios as far as camp counselor to, to campers. And so I agree, if that's the recommended target, we should have that. And I want to look at the budget and see how many can we afford with our budget, and that may determine the camper count. So we may have to do the math backwards on that one.
Sure. Yep, we'll take a look at it. I think we also need to look across into the next budget too, just some of this. So that's my least favorite part of the budget process, is where the numbers fall. So
my least favorite part of the budget process is we don't get answers until actually heading into the next fiscal year. And all of our decisions need to happen like right here at the conversion of one year to the other. So the timing's terrible.
Joe.
Yes, I have the form in front of me for the Picasset School Gymnasium from July 1 till August 20th from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we're allowed to use that on rainy days or inclement weather.
Okay.
Joe, thank you so much for being proactive on that and taking care of that for us. That was a fantastic move. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
And
awesome.
also while I have us on this, I also put in for trunk or treat for October the 23rd and a rain date the 24th for the Tiverton High School, Middle School, and Ranger School, all 3 combined
Nice.
for the area and the bathroom, the restrooms. So hopefully, I'm just waiting to hear back from that if that's approved.
Cool. That's
Nice
awesome.
job.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping ahead on that one.
Job.
I try to be ahead.
I appreciate it. I did have one minor change that I was looking to make to the camp this year, and I wanted to throw it to this group. Is in the past we've run 9:30 to 2:30. I was going to suggest we move it to 9 to 2. It just seemed like that half hour may align a little bit better. And then if you're doing a drop off, it could be 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after. I'm not sure. 9:30 just strikes me as sort of a little bit of a weird time, but I don't know what the thinking has been on that in the past.
I would agree with that. 9 to 2 sounds normal. 9:30 was a little oddball. I think it just was a carryover. Could have been the preference of the previous person running it too.
Yeah, I have no objections to that. I don't think that would make a material significant impact negative to the campers. And if anything, potentially a favorable one.
Probably better.
All right. Awesome. Cool. So we're hoping that we'll have our camps coordinator hopefully lined up by the beginning of next week. And then the one thing we've got to figure out is I know that in the budget, it's calling for money to have a registration system in there. But again, we're in this weird spot. So I have a backup plan potentially. I'm trying to avoid us all having to sit there and do paperwork. Rachel, as much as I know you're amazing at it, I really would rather you not have to do it.
No. Agreed.
Cool. Okay. And there's a couple other irons in the fire with secondary things like CPR, first aid, and other courses. So those will all be rolled out sort of at the same time. Nothing new per se that would require action. It's the same stuff we've done in the past, just with scheduling. So.
All right. Stu, anything on the babysitting or home alone? Did that ever come through for us?
I've been playing telephone tag with her, so I've got to give her a call back. She's waiting on me at this point. So yeah, we did communicate. I think there's an openness. We just got to figure out the dates. And there's also CPR and first aid. Dave Paul and I did connect potentially on him doing one as well. I think there could be a couple different opportunities. So, all right. Any questions or comments?
I got one question.
Sure.
What are we going to do? We can't get lifeguards. Like I said, we don't have any lifeguards for Sunday. We're having trouble getting gate attendants. What do you want to do?
Folks, what do you think?
I think unfortunately you have to close, right? If you don't
I
have
thought you already decided.
lifeguards. Yeah.
So you already decided you weren't going to open Sunday.
Was it Saturday or Sunday we didn't have the lifeguard for?
Sunday, Father's Day.
Yeah.
Saturday we have a lifeguard, and we have one lifeguard for Parkland, and we can sell passes at Cornell's, keep the bathrooms open. Sunday,
It's a Father's Day gift for everybody. It's a nice gesture.
Father's Day, let everybody get in for free.
There you go.
But the bathrooms will be closed?
Yes.
Ooh. That's
Nope.
gonna cause a lot of controversy.
Well, this is something we discussed earlier with Trish Hilton, who ran it a couple of years ago, said it's a nightmare if you don't have somebody there with those bathrooms open. You're going to have all kinds of problems. So
It was a
It's better
nightmare.
off
There's
not open.
somebody there. I had problems last Sunday.
So,
I mean-
question, do we have two different questions? Do we have gate attendants available?
None that I
sounds like,
feel are trained enough.
okay. So if we don't have gate attendants available, that sort of answers the question. If we have gate attendants, the second question becomes financially, are we in a position with our budget to account for it, which I think we probably are. So, I'm just trying to think about how to make this work. I do agree with Joe that I think there's going to be some challenges. There's a couple different ways we can look at it. Does the commission step up and volunteer? And I'm not pointing at you, Bob, because you're doing this enough. Like, I have keys. I can go open it in the morning and check the bathrooms 2 to 3 times during the day. I don't know. What do people think? I mean,
in a way, he said he doesn't have gate attendants that are trained. That would probably be a good day to train people. But then again, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys here that probably are all dads and want to spend the family day with their family. So
I'm on a plane, so
Plane.
Bob, did you say they're not fully trained or not trained at all?
Some of them are not trained at all.
Right.
We only have 4 gate attendants that are truly trained. As far as how to log in, how to log out, you know what I mean? The paperwork that's involved, like resident stickers, somebody comes in, they have a mass plate, but they have they can prove they're a taxpayer. You give them the decals. The biggest problem we had down at Grinnell's a couple of weeks ago was they're just handing the decals out. They're not peeling them. So they had to put them on the windshield and then they're floating around again. So
Yeah, I just didn't know if there were some minor pieces that people weren't trained in that you might be able to look at an exception.
So,
there's some of them that are really not trained at all.
yeah.
Right.
If you have a gate attendant that is looking to work that day, I don't see why we couldn't contemplate just asking them to be there for the bathroom and skip beach passes, there's no lifeguard, you can't collect beach fees. Really just have them take care of keeping an eye on the bathroom, opening it, closing it, and keeping an eye on the bathroom. I think what the worry was is opening the bathroom and walking away and the damage that could happen to it. So I think just the presence of a person there.
Well, and the police will be down there, right? So there will be officers down at the beach. Now, that's not the same thing. I'm not expecting them to be in the bathrooms checking them out, but there will be somebody there to kind of essentially monitor slightly. So
I just think there's going to be a lot of backlash from the community if the bathrooms are not open.
No, I agree. And so here's my question. If they're not open this weekend, how are we training these people? So like, there's an opportunity to connect with them on Tuesday night, correct? Is that an accurate
What
statement?
we're hoping for. We're waiting to see if we can get a room, but that's the plan, to meet everyone Tuesday. I mean, I've only gone down there once, so I don't know the whole thing. And this woman, Judy, is going to sit down and show everyone, I want her to go through everything and how to do it, and then set up the schedule and get people. A lot of these kids haven't been out of school yet, so they haven't even started.
So you can't find a room for this? Is that what you said, Melissa?
Yeah, well, we tried to get one at the library, and the lady just, I guess we can't ask her until Monday. So we're waiting to confirm a room for Tuesday.
I can't offer for them, but I know that Primavera has been very open to offering. They won't offer it all the time, but they want to do public things, and they have that big room in the back that generally on a Tuesday night probably isn't used. I've used them often on a Wednesday night for things. So if you get stuck, let me know and I'll give them a call.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to use that.
There's also the senior center.
I was gonna get a hold of Janet tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
see if
yeah.
you could use a large room at the Senior Citizen Center.
Yeah, that's probably a better place, yeah.
You know what I mean? They got two rooms, they got a large room. So I was gonna get a hold of Janet tomorrow to see if that would be possible. And I'd get back with Melissa. I told her I'd get back to her tomorrow morning as soon as I spoke to Janet.
So, I have a question. I was Googling something, Google Maps the other day, and on Judson Street near Holy Ghost, it says Tiverton Recreation, that we have an office there. You know that building right next to it?
Not anymore.
I was like, I didn't know we had an office.
That was sold years ago. That was sold years ago.
I was so surprised when I saw it.
That was a good meeting room. We had a nice little setup there, and we kept all the supplies in the basement.
Yep.
So quick question, you may already have this in place. Given the situation this weekend, and hopefully you'll have people trained and it won't be an issue, but if in the future Melissa doesn't have staffing for a day, a weekend, whatever, is she authorized not to open? What's the process for her to go through?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. That has been, so she has the authority to make the call on, after conferring probably with either Bob or myself, as whether to open or not. And obviously weather is the other big area where this comes up in the city.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's the same thing as a rain date, rain date, the bathrooms wouldn't be open either. And a lot of these rain dates, it's rainy in the morning and then by 2:00 it's beautiful, Yeah. A similar situation.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bob, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to ask it though.
I don't know if I want you to ask it either.
Melissa knows where I'm going. I'm not going to ask it. I'm going to let it go.
Okay.
Please.
Been
All
a
right.
tough week.
Yeah. So let's start with this. I can commit on Saturday to ensuring that the bathrooms are open.
It's not Saturday, Sunday. We got plenty of staff for Saturday. It's Father's Day we're talking about.
All right. So, but here's my question: do you have staff you have one lifeguard, right?
One lifeguard. It's going to be at Fogland.
On Saturday.
Correct.
Saturday.
It's like half the people are going no, half the yes. Okay, Saturday, one lifeguard. Do we have enough gate attendants for both beaches on Saturday?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Saturday is all set.
All right, so Saturday is good. So the only day we're dealing with if there's a concern is Sunday, where there is nobody available. There aren't enough gate attendants available, and there are not any lifeguards available.
Correct.
Right. All right, cool. Thank you for bearing with me while I slowly catch up to the rest of the pack. So I can definitely help with opening up the bathrooms both days, or both beaches in the morning on Sunday. It's unlikely that I can close them just because I have to be on a flight out late in the afternoon. But if there's anybody else that could assist, I know, Bob, you have keys. I'm seeing Danny, you raise your hand. I think Dana's dead on. I'm concerned about the backlash that's going to arise if we don't open the bathrooms here. And so what I would offer is there an opportunity for us to potentially, and Melissa, with your help on this, come out of this weekend trying to potentially use Saturday as an opportunity to acclimate you a little bit, Melissa, as to how this works, and then see if we can potentially, maybe there's an opportunity for us to find somebody who needs that training on Sunday, and we use you as a little bit of a bridge. If we don't have lifeguards, then we're not charging for the beach. What we're doing is maintaining the bathroom, right? So I think it's less of an issue with some of the conflict and who gets what passes. It is an opportunity to communicate with them about this is what you'll do in this situation. So you can talk to them, but all we're asking mostly at that point is to ensure that the beaches aren't trashed and that the bathrooms are clean. Does that sound, am I off base in my perception on this?
I personally, I think you're looking for problems, but we're going to go with it. Okay, I'm going to say this. I know I'm going to get in trouble for this. I'm going to say it anyways. I think we should. I know right now the minimum age is 16. I think we should lower that to 15. There are some 15-year-old people, kids out there that are very responsible. They're very smart, and they're probably better than we think. So I think as long as you get the work permit from school and stuff like that, I don't see any reason why we can't hire 15-year-olds. Nobody wants to work.
For which position? For the gate attendants and the lifeguards?
Gate attendants.
Or just the lifeguard?
Gate attendant. Well, even lifeguards. I mean, according to Red Cross and the state of Rhode Island, you can hire a 15-year-old lifeguard.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's right in there. So I mean, I'm not saying we're going to leave a 15-year-old kid all by herself with another 15-year-old, but if we can bring some good, responsible 15-year-old kids on board, okay, to work with kids that are 16, 17 years old, then I don't see the reason why we can't do that.
How many gate attendants do we have?
On a normal basis, 4.
No. How many applied for the position?
I think we had 9 on that list, Melissa. You get the list now, don't you?
Not in front of me. There were quite a few names. The thing is, like, Bob's reached out to them and no one's getting back to him. So it's like, are they working? Are they not? We don't know.
Well,
so I'm going to find out. But there were some 15-year-olds and one that I know personally that's probably more mature than a 25-year-old that could do the job just fine. Like you said, I would never put them with 2 15-year-olds together. No. But I think it's a case-by-case basis.
The thing that bothers me is that they all applied for the job, and now when you call them to schedule them, none of them want to work.
They don't answer.
I would say 3 times they refuse, drop them from the list, because
right.
That was the whole purpose of this, us advertising and getting these people on board early, was to try to set up a schedule, and now we're having a problem. I think it's very frustrating.
I hate to ask a question like this because you've done a good job, but have we tried texting them?
Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to send a group text out to all of them.
Okay.
So I don't think kids talk anymore.
Yeah, I mean, for the ones who haven't responded.
Yeah, Bob's talked to them. I think he has. He's tried both ways.
Okay.
'Cause he handled that, but there's a few that just aren't responding and they applied for the job. But I mean, if you've reached out that many times,
Yeah.
we're going to move on to someone else.
And it may come down to the timing. Obviously, I do a lot of hiring in my day job. If it takes too long from application to phone call, these folks have put in applications in 5, 6, 7 places. They may have already found a position elsewhere. So I agree with Joe. If we just can't get them to respond at some point, you just cross them off the list. But I also agree with
a few of them this week though that are going to be really good. Like they've already responded to me, they filled out their paperwork, they're ready to go. So.
Yeah. And then as far as the 15-year-old, I'm guessing there needs to be some process for us to change whatever existing job description, regulation, whatever it is that we have that says we can't hire them. That needs to be fixed first, and that's probably not going to happen overnight either.
Do we know where that is coming from?
Where what's coming from?
The 16 or older.
So it is in the job description. I think we had, as a commission, talked about it before. I will be the first one to say I raised reservations regarding the differences that I have seen between 15 and 16-year-olds, and I base that on, in my professional role, training about 2,000 sailing instructors a year, many of whom fit in that line between 15 and 16, and having had to evaluate it. But as I said to Bob, my opinion is only one at the table, and as a commission, it's something I'm open to revisiting. Obviously, I think we also need to be really clear, to echo Rachel's point. This isn't something that's going to resolve our problem for this coming weekend. So if we decide all of a sudden that we want to allow 15-year-olds, that's still not helping us on Sunday. So I'm game to have that discussion, but I'd also like to finish the first one, which is, what are we doing on Sunday?
Yeah. So Stu, I think what I heard is that you have volunteered to open the restrooms Sunday morning. I saw both Dana and Melissa raise their hand that they would be willing to lock them up later in the day. And I think for any of us who can find a few moments in our day to swing by and just check things out, that would be strongly encouraged. But I do think it is highly likely that people will go to that beach on Sunday. The weather is looking like it's going to be in the low 80s, sunny, perfect, beautiful beach day. They're going to want to be there, and I think they'll expect the bathrooms to be open. I'd like to facilitate that. So if it means Stu opens it, somebody closes it, and the rest of us do our best to try to swing by, for a few minutes at some point during the day to check on it, I'm in favor of that. I know it's a little bit risky that there could be some damage, but I think that damage could happen even with, with the beach open and a gate attendant there. That can still happen.
Chief, since I noticed you're still with us, is it something that your officers can, again, not asking them to take on any responsibility for cleaning the bathrooms, mind you, but just kind of keep an eye on as they're down there?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, as a matter of fact, and we can double check with this, I believe one of your commission members, who it's no secret is one of my special officers, could be working. So, and they have the pickup truck. So if stuff is bagged, you can throw in the back of the pickup truck, and we got a dumpster in the back of the station. So we can keep an eye on it, and we can dump the trash too.
Well, if it's Ed, let's just give him a toilet brush and call it a day.
That's your purview. And actually, I think given that the town is paying him, it actually might be mine. So I like that.
All right, so
Yeah,
commission notes will reflect that Ed will have a toilet brush and no.
We can definitely take care of that for you. No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ed's motto is have brush, will travel.
All right, so unless we come up with an alternative plan where we're able to get some people down there on Sunday, it sounds like, we as a commission are going to step up and help take care of it. Sound like a plan?
Yeah. Hey, Stu, if you get me a key, I can open up Fogland pretty easy. I just don't have keys.
Cool. I'll connect with you tomorrow, Chris.
Okay.
And I would, and I know Stu, if you get the police department a key too, we can just keep an eye on that place too. So if this comes up again and the detail officers are there, so it's not inconveniencing the commission, we can open and close it. If I'm going to have an officer there at 9 o'clock and then another officer there at 10 o'clock, we can take care of that for you.
Right. So are we in a good spot, do we feel, for right now?
That was a good decision.
All right. So
Nice job.
I don't want to dismiss what Bob was saying. Did want to close that out. For the discussion around 15-year-olds, and Bob, you do make a compelling case for it. What does everybody else think?
I personally think it comes down to the interview also. Like you could have a 16 or 17-year-old that interviews really bad and a 15-year-old that does interview very well. So I think that's up to us if you're interviewing the people, right? Does open up your pool of applicants. And I agree with you. 15-year-olds can be immature, but so can, 52-year-olds.
When is the next council meeting, out of curiosity?
It's the 28th, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the only logistical change that has to be made here is that we would have to change where it says 16 to 15 in there. Melissa, because you would be interviewing them, if I'm not misreading, it sounds like you're an advocate for making this change. Does that sound fair?
I am. It's just one that I knew had applied, and I happen to know her personally. You know, she's an extremely responsible kid, and I would take full responsibility of this child. And I've met some of the other people. There's just it depends on the person. Like you said, you can meet a 30-year-old who's not mature enough. So it is a case by case.
Yeah, we bring in interns from Diamond and Durfee, and we get definitely the mix. Some of the 15-year-olds, you would put them in charge of the most expensive piece of equipment. Other ones, you don't want them near a Coke machine.
Right.
But
Stu, I would say
that's your prerogative to interview them.
Yes, Stu, I would say my comfort level is only 15 on the gate attendant. I'm not quite there yet on the lifeguard.
I agree with that. I would not say a lifeguard. I wouldn't want someone at 15 saving my life.
Yeah, you'll probably have a tough time finding a 15-year-old lifeguard also. There's not a lot of them that would pass all the tests anyway.
Right.
So you don't have to start at 14 and do all the tests.
So we don't have anything on our agenda tonight that would allow for a vote on this particular change to it. So I'm just trying to think about how logistically we get to the point where this can get moved forward and sort of can get expedited.
Joe, because it's a job description, they have to be approved by the town, right? You don't approve your own job descriptions, do you, Stu?
I actually think the personnel board approved it for us. I don't know that it went to the town council. So maybe the answer here is it has to go to the personnel board to approve, and then it comes back to us.
So if you want to see if you can find that out, and if it's something that we can do at our next meeting, we can raise it if we need to, but we'll need to know by early next week.
Yeah, so I will find out.
Chris is out.
Yeah, I know. He so inconsiderately decided to take vacation. It's not fair. Just to do a straw poll in not in a formal capacity, is this something that the commission as a whole is in favor of based on this conversation?
I'm equivocal, so I don't feel really passionate one way or the other, quite honestly. I hear the plight of not having enough applicants. I'm not sure. I guess if you expand the age, by default, you'd expand your potential candidate pool, but I don't know if that would still really solve our problem right now. But I think a 15-year-old could handle the gate attendant role if we were clear and chose the mature 15-year-old and made sure that they understood what their job and their expectations were. Not in favor of it for that young as a lifeguard. I just feel actually the inherent risk to the lifeguard is a bit much for a 15-year-old. So I'd be okay with it for a gate attendant. Again, as long as those gate attendants are not fighting with the patrons coming through and they just wave them through when there's a problem and call the police department.
Yeah, I would agree. And it is an interview process. So whether they're 15 or 16 or whatever age, you still have to interview them the same way. So that's at your point where you can kind of sense that they may be immature and move on to somebody who's a different candidate, but it does open up your candidate pool. And again, I don't know what 2022 is going to bring, but it's nice to have that option, I would say, especially if you do have somebody that is a good qualified person. When you get that right person, you can carry them on for 3 or 4 years. That really becomes nice. I know traditionally with the gate attendants, we had some of the same people coming back, and they all started when they were 16 or it just kept coming back. It was very, very convenient. You know, they all knew their gig.
I mean, that's the thing too. I told that to Melissa. I mean, you get an 18-year-old, they're going to be going to college. They're not going to be wanting to work. They're going to work 1 summer, 2 summers. You can train them all over again. If we can get a 15-year-old, they'll probably work for 3 or 4 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, where they're going to grow. They're going to go. They're going to move along. They're going to grow.
Yep.
So I don't think, I personally, I don't think it's, again, it's not every 15-year-old, but you know, there's certain ones out there I think would be a benefit where they'd come back for 2 or 3 years.
And that's good for us because then they're not training every year.
Oh, Dana, do you have any thoughts?
I agree. I mean, some 15-year-olds, I mean, I can use my 2 kids. My older one, I would have absolutely trusted her at 15. My other one, so it all depends on the kid.
Okay. For me, I think it comes down to 2 things. I personally don't love it, but I will offer that it falls within the scope of what's still legal. And I trust Melissa to vet people appropriately. And so those 2 things for me would kind of sway it from my end. So, you know, I appreciate where everybody's coming from. It sounds like this is what's being recommended for us to move forward. I appreciate the straw poll. I will find out from the personnel board what is required for us to change it, and then circle back and let you guys know if it's something we have to formally vote on again, or if we can just move forward with it. So we'll find out.
That sounds good.
They're pretty responsive too. So appreciate the personnel board. Cool. All right. So we have reached the end of our agenda. Is there anything else anybody, as Councilor Burke would say, for the good of the order? Is there anything anybody wants to bring up? No? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, Melissa, welcome. We're psyched to have you.
Oh.
Dana, go
We
ahead.
need a motion.
Yeah.
We need a
Dana.
motion to adjourn.
Yep. I need a motion.
I'll
to
make the
adjourn.
motion.
We got a motion from Dana. I got a second from Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night,